everybody. Welcome to TLR Tuesday. I'm Mary Tips, the Executive Director of Texans for Lawsuit Reform, joined by my, as I like to say, my partner in crime, Lee Parsley.
Good morning, Mary.
How's it going?
Good so far.
Okay, can we just, before we get started with our special guest, somebody goes to Whataburger. They order a burger.
By the way, I love Whataburger, my favorite burger.
Of course, it's your Texas. You have to. But you order it without onions. And
I don't, but you can order it without onions.
But this individual orders it without onions, eats it, never smells the onions, never tastes the onions, and now they're suing for $1 million because the onions made them sick.
Yeah,
What are we coming to?
Preposterous on its face, right?
Insane.
Yeah.
That is how litigious this society is. We got to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nuts, and maybe we'll start a feature every week, Mary, with the craziest lawsuit we've heard about.
We have no shortage.
Yeah, there's always something.
Somebody didn't get drafted earlier this week, and somebody sued about that?
Oh, no. Shadir got drafted in the 5th round instead of the 1st round, and someone I read has mental anguish based on that, so they filed a lawsuit. So this is just a Joe Blow out there in the world who is upset that Shadir Sanders did not get drafted as soon as he thought he would. So he's suing over that. So again, pretty crazy.
Completely crazy.
Yeah. So that's what we're here for.
That's right. Okay, Lee, we're welcome today with Lisa Warren. Lisa's from Fort Worth. She came to the committee hearing to testify, gave her 2 minutes, but she has a lot more to say. They have messed with the wrong woman. But Lisa, first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Lisa Warren. I am a small business owner. I own a mortgage brokerage, and I've been in the lending industry for 27 years. And I have a lot of fraud examination in my background, fraud detection, and I pay attention to the details. And yes, they have messed with the wrong person because I've found a lot.
So, Lisa, tell us what happened. You were in a car accident.
I was driving home from one of my clients' offices in Dallas on the tollway, on the express road tollway, and the one lane, and traffic was stopped. And the gentleman, I could clearly see that he did not see that we were stopped. He was coming over a hill. He must have been texting or something. And we parted like the Red Sea to try to get out of his way, and he plowed right into me and another lady. So I couldn't get away.
So you felt like you were injured, and you wanted some legal help with how to deal with this collision and the injury?
I definitely was injured, and I knew I didn't have insurance, so I knew that it could be bad because spine surgery is very expensive. My last one was $100,000, so I knew that, oh Lord, I might need somebody to help me with this.
Okay, well, just give us a little bit of the story. How did you had the car accident? You contacted a lawyer. The lawyer started sending you to see providers, and kind of take us through how that went. You said there were 10 providers. Just give our listeners a little bit of a feel for how this whole process worked for you, and going to see providers, and what were they doing? Why did you have 10 doctors? And kind of just give us a view of how this whole thing worked for you, or didn't work.
It felt like a very organized process from the attorney. Like I said, he filled out. It appeared that they would fill out the insurance forms. The form that had the CPT codes on there and was very familiar with the charges. It appeared to come from them. Now, that may have not been the case, but that's what it looked like. Because they would make the orders, like they would do the scheduling. And it'd be like, oh, okay, you need to go to a neurologist, you need to go here. Like it was like a very organized deal, like you were going through a conveyor belt at a factory. So that's truly what it was like.
So the lawyer was making the appointments and telling you who to go see next?
Correct.
And how was all this being paid for?
A letter of protection, which is a fancy thing or acronym used as LOP. That's been, I guess, the golden ticket over in the injury law.
And that's an agreement between the attorney and the physician,
right? To get the physician paid out of the
proceeds.
Plaintiff's money when the case settles. So I guess what I was trying to get to is there was a settlement, I guess, and then the lawyer has your money and is going to pay the providers. And is that when it is you started requesting the medical bills and trying to figure out what was going on?
So whenever the policy limits were issued, the check went to the attorney, and they were actually written to myself and the law firm, but he endorsed it, and he deposited those checks into his account, I guess. I still haven't seen it. And that's when he said, okay, well, we're going to negotiate these bills with these providers. And he said, I said, well, I will pull up the CPT codes, and I will look at, what's average for those procedures. And, I'll give you what I feel like we should, offer them, because I don't think that I had that much medical bills, but I need to see those bills. And that became a real issue. And that's where this whole thing went south, when I started asking to see my bills.
And you're asking the lawyer or the providers or both?
Both.
Both, okay.
I asked both, yes.
All right, so keep going. How did that, you ask for your bills and what happens?
So the minute that I asked for my bills, we had already settled it. All of a sudden my bills went from $57,000 to $67,000 with no explanation. I don't know why it increased by $10,000, but it did. He said I didn't have all the bills, and I said, well, why didn't you have the bills? Because didn't you just try to settle the case, right? I would think that you would have the bills, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm a very detailed person for what I do for a living, so I have an eye that does that. It's just automatic. And I said I need to review the bills, because I'm not going to pay anything without looking at it and to making sure that it's right, because mistakes happen, and that's where this whole thing went it took a wrong turn.
Yeah. So tell us how. What did you
Yeah, what
find?
happened?
Well, the lawyer said, you know more than most people. You know more about what's going on than most people do. And I said, so you are upset because I'm more of an informed consumer? Is that what you're saying? Because I don't know anybody that would pay a bill without reviewing it first. That's just common sense for anybody. But they didn't want me to look at them. So when I got them, they treated me like I should be grateful for being able to be treated, because they used an LOP.
All right. What'd you find in the bills once you have them?
So when I got the bills, they were outrageously high. And so I took the bills and I went on to the consumer website that the medical board suggests to look at for out-of-network cost, which would be somebody that doesn't have insurance. And you can search the CPT code, and it will give you the average amount that's billed for that procedure. And I pulled every single one of them according to every bill. And those bills added up for the average and fair cost for Texas under those codes. The bills they added up to $12,100. So that $67,000 was truly $12,000, and that was being, lenient,
Generous.
I mean, I was being gracious.
And what did your attorney say when you told them that?
Well, I sent over all the research that I did. I printed it all out, and I typed up a Word document and said, this is what I would like for you to offer for settling these bills. And it was a fight from there. They ignored me, didn't get back to me. It took days, completely avoided answering any of my questions about the billing being wrong. One of the words was, I said, these bills aren't accurate. And he stated, well, if you're telling me that if it's not accurate, you're saying that it's fraud.
Were all the things that you were billed for, all the treatments, all the services, all the meetings, doctor's visits, did you attend all the visits? Did you get all the treatments that were on the bills?
So one of the providers had ownership in the surgical center where they performed the injection that I got, in the steroid injection I got in my lower back. And the spine office charged me on the same day for the same CPT code for the injection for $4,995. And then the surgical center charged me $8,995, and then an anesthesia charge. And for the same CPT code as the injection was, but that was at the surgical center. Of course, I can't be in two places at the same time. I mean, I'm good, but I'm not that good. I can't be in two places at the same time. So I questioned that. I said, I need to know what this charge looks. It looks like I'm being charged twice for the same thing. And it's obvious that I am. And so I asked the medical provider, I mean, since I couldn't get anywhere with the attorney because he completely avoided me, and at that time he was very frustrated with me, thought I was being difficult for questioning, how dare I question them. So I asked the billing department of that surgical center, and I couldn't get a response. I could not get a response. I called, and I finally got a response, and they said that is the surgical center fee. There was no details. There was no. Usually, you get a itemized printout from any surgical center that says all of the charges for. They don't just group it together as a big fat charge of almost $9,000. So and to this day, I still haven't received an itemized bill.
So
Which you should have.
just to make sure I'm following you here, the surgical center charged you about $9,000, and the doctor charged you about $5,000 for a pain injection shot in your back.
Correct.
And what's
Same CPT code.
what's the market value of the pain injection shot in your back, and do you need to go to a surgical center to get one?
The charge for that should be more like $3,000. And so total out of pocket for that, including the anesthesiologist, would be more like a $5,000 tops. And that bill was $12,000.
Okay.
And did you go to chiropractors?
The chiropractor I went to is the one that brought his friend, the attorney.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, and that chiropractor charged me for at least 20 sessions that I never went to. One of the sessions that they charged me $10,000 for was on Labor Day. Nobody's open on Labor Day. There were other sessions that I was clearly at other appointments in Fort Worth. He's in Plano. One of the days, I was at the hospital with my son who had knee surgery, so I was clearly with him and my family. I mean, I could prove my location on those days, and there is no way that I was at that office. And the charges that were fraud were almost $10,000.
Wow, I'm so sorry. And I'm glad that we were able to revisit this. And like I said, you came to testify, and with only 2 minutes, you didn't get to tell your whole story. So thank you today for taking the time to fill us in on the whole picture.
Thank you. I hope that, we can stop this from happening, because there are people out there that aren't as informed as I am. And we need to inform them. Everybody needs to know what their rights are. And it's very important for us to get the word out and protect the people that are truly injured, because they're taking advantage of people that are stressed out, they're hurt, they can't think straight, so they're trusting these professionals to do what's in their best interest, and they're not doing that, and that's very sad. It's very disheartening for that to be a normal practice, and the lines between right and wrong are so skewed that that's allowed. It is truly fraud.
Well, that's why we got to get SB 30 passed, Lee.
You're right, Mary. That's what we're worried about.
That's
It's
it,
the
to take
exact
care
problem.
of people like Lisa.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, that's a wrap, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Have a good week. Thank you.